Alright, so we're going to implement the homepage component now. So as you can see in the homepage, we have the sidebar. So we are going to implement first the sidebar. So if I click on the sidebar, you can see that we have the home section, subscriptions, history, and once you've logged in, you can also see the liked videos. So first we are going to go ahead and implement the sidebar and also the other components like the subscriptions, history, liked videos and all. So let's go and see the plan. So first I'm going to create 5 components: the homepage component to display the homepage, the history component to display all the user history, the user video history, the subscriptions component to display all the videos where the user subscribed to the other user, and to create the liked videos component to display all the videos which the user has liked, and finally the sidebar component to make sure that we can navigate between these components through the sidebar, right? So let's go ahead and implement them then. So I'm going to open the terminal first and cd into the YouTube clone folder. Alright, so now I'm going to type in ngGC home because I want to create a new component called as home. The ngGC will create the component, and once I press enter, this will create 4 files: the HTML, the TypeScript, CSS, and the spec.ts file where we can write the tests. So now let's go ahead and create the history component. So I'm going to again type in ngGC history. This will also create the history component, followed by the subscriptions component. So I'm going to type in again ngGC subscriptions, followed by ngGC liked videos, and finally ngGC sidebar. This will create also 4 classes for the sidebar component. Now you can open the project structure, and if I go to the front end, you can see already that we have all these folders created for the history, home, liked videos, sidebar, and the subscriptions. Let me make sure to add these to my Git repository. Also the liked videos, home, and history. I'm going to type in Ctrl-Alt-A so that this will be added to my local Git repository. So as the sidebar component is first essential to navigate between all the components, I'm just going to go ahead and implement the side nav component first. So for that, I'm going to open the Angular material website, and in here I'm going to click on components, and I'm going to search for the side nav section. And in here, if you open the basic side nav, the option to edit the example in stagblets, this will open the stagblets here. So what we're going to implement is a side nav component like this. So we need a side nav component and followed by the main content. We want to have it side by side, right? So to implement this, I'm just going to take this example. Here I'm just going to copy paste this example, and I'm going to open the sidebar.component.html file, and in here I'm going to paste this inside the HTML file. So to be able to use these tags, match side nav container, match side nav, and the match side nav content, I have to first import these modules, the side nav container modules, into the Angular module file, right? For that, I'm going to import this match side nav module to our Angular application. So if you don't see this option to import the side nav module in IntelliJ, you can go to the app module.ts file and make sure that you import this match side nav module from Angular material side nav package, right? So make sure you add this import statement, followed by adding it in the imports array of the ng module decorator. And we don't need this class, this example container and ngIf should run statements here. So I'm just going to remove this, and we're going to replace it with some custom CSS soon. And we have this match side nav tag, which represents the side nav bar, and followed by attribute called as mode, and in here we are providing the value for this attribute as side, as we need a side nav bar similar to what we see here also in IntelliJ, and we want to have it open because we won't want to have it closed by default. We want to have the side nav bar opened by default, so that's why we're also going to use the opened attribute of this match side nav tag, right? And inside the tag we have this text side nav content followed by the match side nav. So inside the match side nav content we will show the main content. In our case it would be the videos, so whatever option we have selected in the side nav in the sidebar component, we are going to show this content inside the match side nav content section. So now what I'm going to do is display this sidebar component inside the homepage component. So I'm going to open the homepage component. I'm going to type in app sidebar, because if you go open the sidebar.component.ts file, you can see that the selector is app sidebar. So that's why I'm typing in app sidebar to display the sidebar inside the homepage component. So now let's start the Angular application and see how this is looking. So I opened the address localhost 4200 on my browser, and you can see that you can't see anything yet. This is because we did not define the route inside the app routing module.ts file. So whenever we are opening localhost 4200, we have to display the homepage component, right? So to define that route, I'm going to go back to IntelliJ and go to app routing.module.ts file, and I'm going to just copy this existing path, and whenever we have an empty path, so whenever we are accessing the root project and the root path, I'm going to show the homepage component, right? So after adding these inside the app routing.module.ts file, I'm going to open my browser again one more time. And here you can already see that we are able to see the side nav content and the main content. So but the problem is we are not able to see this side nav bar across the whole page, which just displayed in the starting of the page. So we are going to apply some CSS and make it visible across the whole page, the side nav bar across the whole page, right? So I'm going to open IntelliJ, and in here I'm going to first create for the match side nav container tag. I'm going to add a class attribute, and I'm going to type in side nav container. So I'm going to copy this side nav container and open the sidebar.component.css file, and I'm going to define this side nav container inside the CSS file. And here I'm going to first define the height as 100%, because we want to make sure that the side nav container component is displayed completely. So once I add this CSS attribute, if I open the application now, you can see that we are able to see the side nav content followed by the main content. And if you just scroll down, you can see the text which comes by default in the homepage component called as homeworks. But as I mentioned before, we want to display whatever content of the home page to the right side, right? Not to the bottom, to the right side of the side nav component. So for that we need to make some small refactoring. So I'm going to open IntelliJ, and here we see that inside the sidebar component HTML file we have the match side nav container tag, which acts as a container for the sidebar, right? So if you put the container inside the sidebar component itself, we can't display the text of the we can't display the contents of the home page inside the side nav content, right? So for that, what we have to do is we should not add the container in the sidebar component itself. So I'm going to cut and paste this side nav container tag to the home page component tag, right? So I'm going to enclose this app sidebar component with match side nav container component. So instead of sidebar component being the container, we are making the home page component as the container, right? And I'm going to close this with match side nav container tag, and I'm going to remove this from match side nav container tag from the sidebar component HTML file. I'm also going to remove the mat side nav content from the sidebar component HTML file, as we have to display the content inside the home component file. So after removing this, I'm going back to the home component HTML file, and here we'll show whatever text we have, this homeworks, to the side of the sidebar, to the right side of the sidebar. So let's open our application in browser and see how it is looking like. So you can see that we have the side nav content, but we still are not displaying the whole page. It's just displaying the components in the small part of the page. That's because we forgot to add the CSS, change the CSS from sidebar component CSS file, because the side nav container definition is not anymore in the sidebar component, but inside the home component HTML file, right? So for this reason, I'm going to open home component.css file and paste in this side nav container CSS definition. So if I open the application now you can see that we are able to see the side nav content, and the homeworks text is aligned below the side nav content because it's trying to display the homeworks here. So what we'll do is we will try to display the home content of the home page to the right side of the side nav content. So for that, we also need to add some CSS code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div just beside the app sidebar definition with a class called side nav content. I'm going to move in this paragraph to the inside the div, and I'm going to create this side nav content CSS class inside the home component.css file. I'm going to type, and here I'm going to define the margin left as 12, right? So in this way, our home component, the text homeworks, will display 12 units to the right side of the margin. So now you can see that we are able to display the homeworks text just right side to the side nav content. So the next step is to style the side nav bar to include the home page, to include the links to home page, the subscription page, the user history, and the liked videos. For that, we are going to make use of a component in Angular material called as navlists. So I'm going to open again the Angular material website, material.angular.io. I'm going to click on components and scroll until I can find the component list. And here mainly we are interested in the navigation list. So basically you are interested in this mat nav list tag. We want to use this mat nav list inside the sidebar component HTML file. So we can also see some examples of this, how it looks like. If I click on the examples tab, this is a basic list, how it looks like. So if I click on the view code section, we have the mat list item, and to be able to use mat nav list, we can use the similar code. So I'm just going to copy this from the basic list HTML, and I'm going to open IntelliJ, and I'm going to go to the sidebar.component.html file, and I'm going to replace this mat side nav content with the code, and I'm going to type in, instead of mat list, I'm going to type in mat nav list, right? So I'm going to now import the mat list module into the app module.ts file. So if I scroll down and go again to the map module.ts file, first of all, you have to add the mat list module class, import the mat list module class from Angular material list package. So make sure to add this import statement, and also add it to the imports array, the mat list module class, right? So once you have added all these definitions inside the app module.ts file, you should not see any compilation errors. So if you now open the application, now you can see that item 1, item 2, and item 3 are displayed to the inside the sidebar component. And what we need now is to display the icons for home, subscriptions, and watch history, and also the liked videos. So for that, we can make use of the mat icon attribute from Angular material. So I'm just going to add some code here. So I'm just going to remove mat item 1, the text, and in here I'm going to type in an icon, a tag called as mat icon, right? And in here I have to provide the class of the name of the icon I want to use. So for that I'm going to use a home icon from Angular material. So I'm just going to type in the text home, and this mat icon is going to take an attribute called as mat list icon, as we want to inform the Angular material that this icon is used as part of a list item. So I want to add the mat list icon attribute, and followed by the name of the icon. So for that we are going to provide a name called as home, right? So this would be displaying the icon followed by the text home. So now let's see how this looks like in our Angular in the browser. So I'm going to open the application, and you can see that we see the home icon followed by the text home. But here you can see that the icon and the text are not aligned in the same line. So for that, what we can do is we can go back to IntelliJ, and we can add an attribute to the paragraph tag called as mat line. So this will inline the text inside the list item. So if the list item contains multiple elements, it will make sure that it will add it in the same line. So if I open the browser now, you can see that the icon and the home are now aligned together without any problems. So in the same way, let's also add the other icons for the subscriptions, watch history, and the liked videos. So I'm going to go back to IntelliJ, and I'm just going to copy this mat list, the mat icon and the paragraph tags, and replace it with item 2 and item 3. Alright, so now we have the home list item. The next one we want to have is the for the subscriptions, right? So for that I'm going to make use of the icon called as subscriptions, and for the text I'm going to also call it as subscriptions. Followed by the third list item, we are going to call it as history, and also here I'm going to change the text of home to history. And finally we need one more list item. So for that I'm just going to copy paste the last one, and the last list item I'm going to call the icon as thumb underscore up, and call this as liked videos. So I want to show a thumbs up, and with the text by liked videos. And for the watch history, we want to show a history called icon called as history, and similarly for subscriptions we want to show an icon from subscriptions. So if I open the browser, you can see that we are nicely displaying the home, subscriptions, history, and liked videos icons inside the list items. So you can find all the names of the icons which I've used before, the subscription, history, and the liked videos like the thumbs up and all, in GitHub page, this GitHub page. I will add this link in the description section. So basically you can find all kinds of icons which is used by Angular material. So if I search for thumb underscore up, so you can see that we are able to find the thumbs up icon. Similarly, we can find also the subscriptions icon here. So I just found this icon name. So whatever icon you want to use, just copy this text and use it in the under the mat icon tab. So the next step is to enable navigation between the components. So by default we are displaying the home component content to the right side of the sidebar. So whenever we click on the subscription icon, we have to display the subscription works text here. Similarly, if I click on the history, I have to show the content of the history component, and also for the liked videos component. So for that, so first we have to add the router link for whatever icons we see inside the sidebar. So for that I'm going to open IntelliJ, and in here under the mat list item section, I'm just going to add router link attribute, and I'm going to just leave this as empty, as the home page is, we have to display the home component under the root URL. And for the mat list item where we are displaying the subscriptions icon, I'm going to add the router link attribute, and I'm going to type in /subscriptions. And also for the history, I'm going to add the router link and this is going to be /history. And lastly, for the liked videos list item, I'm also going to add a router link with /liked videos as a value, right? So we have defined the router links for each list item, but what we are missing are the route definitions inside the app route module.ts file for the subscription history and the liked videos component. So I'm going to open app routing module.ts file, and in here I'm going to add some more route paths. So I'm just going to copy the existing JSON object, and I'm going to create 3 objects, and here the path is going to be for subscriptions. So whenever we are accessing a subscriptions path, we have to display the subscriptions component, right? Similarly, if we are accessing a history router URL with path history, we have to display the history component in the page. And when we are accessing liked videos route, we are going to display the liked videos component. Let's go to the application and see what is happening. So if I click on subscriptions, you can see that we are navigated to we are taken to the subscriptions component, but the sidebar component is missing, right? So if I go back and click on history and also liked videos, is the same. The sidebar component is actually missing from all these components because we have defined the sidebar component inside the home component, right? And we also saw that the home component should act as a container for the sidebar and as well as the content of the sidebar to the right side, right? So what we have to do here is what we have to do to display this subscription, the text, the content of the subscription component to the right side inside this box is we have to consider the routes we have defined before, this subscriptions history and the liked videos, as the children of the home component. So we cannot define these routes as standalone routes because we want to display these contents inside the home component. We have to consider these 3 routes as the children. So for that, what I can do is I can type in children, the attribute children, and this is going to be an array. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut and paste these paths inside the children's array. So now the subscriptions history and the liked videos are going to be the children of the home component, and the home component is going to be a parent. So whenever we are accessing the subscriptions, they are going to display the subscriptions tag. This is going to be a child of the home component and should be displayed inside the home component. So for that, what we have to add one more step. So I'm going to go to the home component.html file. So I want to display the subscriptions and history and the liked videos inside the side nav content, right? So for that, I have to add add a nested router outlet here, router outlet. So whenever we have triggered the child route, whenever we have triggered the child route like subscriptions or we liked videos or history, we will display this particular component inside the router outlet section, right? So let's now open the application and see how is this going to work. So I'm just going to refresh it and I'm going to click on subscriptions. Now you can see that the subscription works is also displayed to the right side of the sidebar. If I click on history, now you can see the history works text. For the liked videos, we have the liked videos works text. If I click on home, you can see we have the home works text, but there's nothing displayed below it. But you may observe already that the home works is displayed whenever we are accessing the subscriptions subscriptions component. So we should not display this home works text whenever we are accessing the other components. So for that, what I can do is I can only show this home works whenever whenever I'm loading the home component, right? For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another component called as featured. So the home section, we usually show the featured videos like the trending videos and all. So for that, I'm going to create a new component called featured videos, and we'll only display these featured videos whenever we are accessing the home component. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open the terminal. I'm going to type in nggc featured. So this will create a component called as featured with the HTML file, TypeScript file, CSS file, and the spec file which contains the unit tests. So after I created this featured component, I'm going to open the app routing module.ts file, and in here I'm going to add one more path as a children for the featured component. So I'm just going to copy the existing path JSON object, and I'm going to paste it and rename the path as featured. And whenever we access this path featured, we are going to display the component called featured component, right? So after we have added this featured path inside the app routing module.ts file, now I'm going to open the featured method folder. So you can see that we have all these 4 files. I'm quickly going to add it to my local Git repository, and I'm going to go back to the home component.html file, and here we can remove the home works now, because whatever content we want to display here, we will display it inside the featured component.html file. So I'm going to remove this. Whenever we are loading the home component, we have to show featured component inside, right? So if by default, if I open the application, you can see that whenever I am trying to load the home component, I'm not seeing anything here, because we are actually displaying the children components here, right? So whenever we are loading the home component, we have to navigate to the featured component so that we can see the featured data from the featured component here. So for that, we can make use of router class in Angular. So whenever our component is initializing, we can navigate to the router, to the featured component from our home component. So for that, I can make use of the router class from Angular routing module. And I can type in this .router.navigate by URL, and I'm going to navigate to the featured component. So at the time of initializing the component, we are navigating to the featured component. So let's see how this is going to work in the browser. So you can see already that if I try to click on home, so if I try to refresh, we are going to the featured page automatically. So if I click on the home, on the home icon, we are still not going anywhere. So for that, what I can do is I can go to the sidebar component HTML file, and where we have this router link for the home list item, I can just type in /featured, right? So I'm going to open the browser again, and if I refresh, you can see that by default we are navigated to the featured component, and if I click on home, we are going also to the featured component. Let's also try with the other components. Let's click on subscription. You can see that we are displaying subscription works data text. So likewise, the history, liked videos, and the home component are all working fine. So the next thing we're going to do is to display the videos inside all these components. So for that, we first need to create the video card to display the video. So we're going to do that next. So in YouTube, you can see that the videos are displayed in the form of cards. So we first see the thumbnail, followed by the title of the video, and followed by some description of the video and the metadata of the video, right? So to be able to display the videos in this format, we can make use of component inside Angular material called as cards, which you can represent it with mat card tag. So if I go to the examples, you can see that we can display the videos in this format. So you can see that we have a card with multiple sections. We have a header section followed by the content, and also some additional details here which we don't need. So what we really need is like this image section and also this header section where we are displaying the title followed by some metadata, right? So this looks like something we can use. So for that, first we have to create the component inside our application. So I'm going to open the terminal and I'm going to type in nggc video card, right? So this will again create all the necessary files to access our component. And from that, I'm going to first open this video card component. And again, I'm going to add these 4 files to my local repository. I'm going to open video card component.html file. And now I'm going to open the Angular material website, and I'm going to click on this second icon called as view code. And here you can see that this is how this mat card looks like, right? We first have a header where we are displaying the title and the subtitle, the title called Shiba Inu. And after that we are displaying an image. So all we need right now is this image and this header, right? We don't need this mat card content and actions, right? I'm going to just copy this whole HTML, go back to my IDE and replace this video card works with this code I've copied from the Angular material website. And now you can see that we have some compilation errors, that this mat card module is not imported into our Angular module.ts file. So I'm just going to go ahead and import the mat card module. Once I did that, if I go back to the app module.ts file, you can see that this mat card module class is added to the imports array of the app module.ts file, and also the mat card module. So after this, I'm going to go ahead and make the changes which are necessary. So I'm just going to, as I mentioned, we don't need this mat card actions and mat card content. So I'm just going to remove this from the code, and I'm going to show the image on top of the mat card header, right? So first we have to display the thumbnail in our videos, and after that we have to display the necessary information about the videos, right? So this is how it works. So we now got an initial version of this video card component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the featured component.html file, and instead of displaying this text featured works, I'm going to display the video card component in here. So for that, I'm going to type in app video card, and I'm going to save it, and let's open the application to see if this is working or not. All right, so you can see that we are displaying the video card inside the whole component. So what we need is we want to display the video in just in a small format, right? We don't want to display it in the whole page. So for that we need to add some CSS, the video card CSS file. So to add the CSS, I'm just going to open the Angular material website one more time, and here I'm going to click on the CSS section, and I'm just going to just copy and paste the CSS into the video card component.css file. So here you can see that for the example card, we are defining the max width as 400 pixel. So that would be the width of the card. And after that, in the header image, example header image, we are providing a background image and the background size as cover. So if you add this CSS, let's see how this looks like in our application. So you can see that this looks far better. We are displaying the card on a max width of 400 pixel, and we are displaying this image as background size as a cover. So the next step is to increase the padding of these video cards so that they are not so close to this borders, right, to the headers. So for that, I'm going to open again the IntelliJ, and I'm going to go to the home.component.css file, and inside the side nav content CSS definition, I'm going to add the attribute padding, and I'm going to give them 16 pixels, right? And now you can see that the card is not so close to these borders, to the header and also to the sidebar. So what I'm going to do again is also to decrease the size of the card, because this looks too big for the screen. So I'm just going to go back to the CSS file, and I'm going to go to the video card component.css file, and I'm going to provide the width as 300 pixels. And now you can see that the width of the card is now decreased, so that now we can it can fit more elements into the screen, and it looks good, right? So let's also try whether with the width 250 how it looks like. And yeah, this looks a bit smaller, but I think we will go with this way with the width of 250, so that we can see much more elements on the screen instead of one card fitting the whole screen. So the next step is to display a title called as featured videos just above the video card. And so let's do that now. So I'm going to open the featured component HTML file, and I'm going to first enclose this app video card using a div tag. and I'm going to define this app video card in a separate row by using the fx layout attribute, and I'm just going to type in the values row and wrap so that this app video card will be displayed in a different row. And after that, I'm going to again create one more div, and I'm going to define fx layout as row and wrap similar to the one below, and inside here I'm going to type in the h3 tag as featured videos so that we will display a title. So let's open and see how it's displayed here. So we have this featured videos title followed by the video card on the new line, right? So now I want to display not one video card but bunch of video cards here, right? So for that I have to create some kind of grid. So if you open the YouTube, you can see that the YouTube videos are displayed in a kind of a grid, right? So to also define the videos in grid, we can define an fx layout gap as 12 pixels, and I'm going to define this gap as a grid. So what this fx layout gap attribute will do is it will create a grid with a gap of 12 pixels between the cards. Right? So to define a grid, I have to not display one card, but I have to display multiple cards, right? So for that, I can just create another div, and I can add ng_for, and I can just display this card until we get the response from the backend multiple times, right? So I'm just going to type let num of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Right? So what this is doing is this is going to repeat this app video card inside a for loop for 8 times. So each time it's going to print this app video card, right? So let's see how is this going to how is this displayed in the browser. So now we can see that the video card is multiplied 8 times and is showing 8 times here. We can do some small improvement here by adding a fx flex attribute as 30%, so that we can just add some fx flex as 30% so that each element can occupy 38% of the row, so that we can have 3 elements per row. So now I'm going to do the same thing also for the subscriptions, history, and the liked videos component. So I'm going back to IntelliJ, and I'm just going to copy the whole thing inside the featured component.html, and I'm going to open the history component.html file and just paste in and replace this featured videos by watch history. And I'm going to do the same thing also for the liked videos. So replace watch history by liked videos. And finally, we are also going to do the same thing for the subscriptions component. So I'm going to replace liked videos by subscriptions. Right, so I'm going to open the application now, and you can see that we are displaying the same content inside all the components. All right, so now it's time to make the home. So now it's time to make this screen dynamic. So instead of showing these placeholders, let's call the Spring Boot backend and get all the video information and display those video information in here, right? So it's time to make these pages. So it's time to make all these pages dynamic. So what I'm going to do now is to call our Spring Boot backend, get all the video information from the database, and display this video information as the cards in the home page, right? So for that, I'm going to first go to the video servers.ts file, and here you can see that we already have the necessary methods to call all the methods in our video controller. So we have one for upload video, one for upload thumbnail, get video, and save video, right? So I'm going to create another method here called as get all videos, and this is going to return us an observable of list of, it's not a list but an array of video DTO, right? This is going to return an array of video DTOs, and I'm going to call this .http client.get of array of video DTO, and the URL is going to be http localhost 8080 /API/videos. And finally, I'm going to add the return statement here. So this method is going to call this /API/videos endpoint, and this is going to return us all the videos which are present in the database, right? So now this get all videos, I have to call this from a component, right? We have to call this from some place. So for that, I'm going to open the featured.component.ts file, and in here I want to call the video service.getAllVideos method, right? So for that, we first need to inject the video service into the component to be able to access the video service, right? So for that, I'm going to type in inside the constructor as private video service, and I'm going to define the video service class, and inside the here I'm inside the ng on init, I'm going to call video service this dot video service dot get all videos, and I'm going to store the response inside a variable called as featured videos, and this is going to be an array of video DTO, right? So by default, this is going to be empty, the featured videos variable, and I'm going to assign this get all videos dot. So as this get all videos is going to return us an observable, to be able to assign this response to the featured videos variable, we have to first subscribe to this get all videos method, right? The observable which is returned from the get all videos method. So I'm going to type in subscribe response, and inside here I'm going to type in this dot featured videos equals response, right? So now our featured video should contain all the information which is returned from the backend. So I'm going to open the featured.component.ts, and inside the ng4, instead of defining an array of numbers, I'm going to define now featured videos, and I'm going to rename this variable num as featured video. So this is going to loop through the featured videos array, and each element inside the array is going to be defined with a variable called as featured video here, right? And now we have to show this information of the featured video inside the video card, right? So we inside the featured video, we contain all kinds of information about the video, like the video title, description and all. So this information we have to somehow pass to the app video card, so that if I go to the HTML file, so that we can display the thumbnail here, the title and the description inside each video card. So for that, we have to provide the featured video as an input to the app video card, right? So I'm going to open app video card, and I'm going to now define an input decorator called as video. This is going to be a video DTO. And now I'm going to use this video attribute, this video variable inside the video card component.html file. And for the mat card image, we have the source of the image URL here. So I'm just going to remove this image URL, and I'm just going to add a source directive here from Angular, and I'm going to type in video.thumbnail URL, right? So this is going to be the thumbnail, and I'm also going to remove the alt as and and I'm going to rename this photo of a Shiba Inu as thumbnail. And for the card title, I'm going to define video dot title, and similarly for the description, for the subtitle, I'm going to type in for now as programming techie, right? This would be the user which uploaded the video. As of now, I think we don't have this information inside the video DTO. So for that, I'm just going to hard code this information, and I'm going to add one more subtitle here, which will show the number of views, right? So for that, I'm going to type in again video dot. I'm just going to type in 1 million views. So it would be awesome if we get the 1 million views, right? So yeah, I'm just adding and I'm also again hard coding this views as 1 million views, and the title and the thumbnail URL should be displayed dynamically based on the video. So now let's go back to the featured component.html file, and in here I'm going to provide the video attribute as featured video, right? So now let's take a step back and see what is happening. Again, I'm just going to recap. In the featured video.component.ts file, when the component is initialized, we are going to make a call to the getAllVideos method, and the response, whatever response we are getting from this method, we are assigning it to the featured videos variable. And this variable we are using to loop through all the responses, all the videos we are getting as a response. And for each featured video, we are sending the attributes, we are displaying the data. For each featured video, we are sending the metadata as an input to the app video card component. And inside the app video card component, we are displaying the video thumbnail and the video title dynamically, and the rest of the fields for now we are hard coding it. So now let's open our application and see what's happening. So it looks like there is an error. Let's open the console and see what is the problem. Okay, so you can see that we are getting a 401 error. This is because we did not yet log into our application, right? So this calls will only work when we are logging into the application, right? Once we are logged into the application. So I'm just going to first log in. So after logging into the application, you can see the videos information, the thumbnail, as we have provided the same thumbnail for the two videos, we just see the same image here, and also the titles also are the same for the two videos. So these are the two videos which are existing in our database as of now. And if I click on the video, nothing happens because there is no link between our video card and the video detail page, right? So the next step is to create a navigation link, a router link between the video card so that we can go to the video detail page. So let's go ahead and do that. So I opened the video card component HTML file, and inside the mat card, I'm just going to add a router link attribute. And this attribute is going to, this router link attribute is going to point to the video detail page. So I'm just going to type in /video and provide the video ID. So for that, I'm going to type in video.id. Right? So whenever the user clicks on a card, the page will be navigating to the video detail page, and the video ID will be provided as the URL parameter. So if you go to the apploading.module.ts file, you can see that for the video detail component, the path is video details /video IDs, not video /video ID. So this is one mistake I did. So now let's go back to the video card component HTML and replace the text video with video details. All right, so now let's go and open the application, and if I click on the card, you can see that we are navigated to the video details page. And now let's go ahead and implement the video detail page. So now we have all the necessary details like the video title, the video description, and the date on which the video was uploaded, but we don't yet have the other information like how many views the video has, and what is the like count and the dislike count, and also some other information, right? So let's go ahead and implement them. So first of all, if I open our backend and go to the video controller class And if I check the get video, if I check the video DTO class, you can see that we are already sending all the necessary information like the view count, like count, and the dislike count from the backend to the front end, right? But if you check our video DTO class inside the front end, if I go into the app and video DTO.ts file, we are not actually consuming the response which is provided by the video DTO from the backend, right? So all we have to do is, I'm just going to, for my convenience, just copy this from these three fields from video DTO class and paste it inside the video DTO.ts file. And I'm going to remove the Java syntax and provide TypeScript syntax for like count, and I'm going to provide this data type as a number. Similarly, for the dislike count, this is going to be a number, and also for the view count, this is going to be a number. In Java, whenever we are using integer, we use the corresponding data type number in TypeScript, right? So we have all the necessary information, like count, dislike count, and view count. So now it's just a matter of displaying these fields inside our video detail component. So I'm going to open video detail dot component.ts file, and now let's add another field called as like count. This will be a number, and this will be 0 by default, and dislike count is also going to be a number, and this is going to be 0 by default. And inside the video service.getVideo call, whenever we are subscribing to the response, I'm also going to assign the response we receive from the backend to the like count and the dislike count fields. So I'm going to type in this dot like count equals data dot like count, and this dot dislike count equals data dot dislike count. Finally, I forgot to also add the field for view count, so I'm going to quickly add this view count field also, and I'm going to assign this view count to the response to the view count variable coming from the backend. All right, so now we have initialized the required fields for us. So let's go ahead to the video detail component.html file, and we have to display all this information inside the HTML file, the like count and the dislike count, as well as the view count. So for that, what I can do is inside the first row, I can add another div tag just above the date. So I'm going to type in div, and I'm going to display the value view count here. So we will display whatever view count. So we will display the view count just as a first field. Okay, so let's check if view count is visible in our video details page or not. So I'm going to open the browser, and you can see an error, failed to compile. Let's see what is the issue here. So I'm going to open IntelliJ and going to go to the terminal, and there is an error inside the save video details component.ts file. It says that the type is missing the following properties: like count, dislike count, and the view count. So this is because we are creating an object of video metadata inside the save video details component.ts file. And you can just scroll down. So whenever we are saving the video, we are constructing an object of type video DTO. TypeScript is complaining that the fields like count, dislike count, and the view count are not present inside this object, right? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create these three fields. So I'm going to type in like count. This will be 0 by default. And similarly, I'm just going to copy this like count field and paste it inside the new line and call it as dislike count. And let's make sure that the dislike is spelled correctly or not. So for that, I'm going to open the video DTO and check that it's spelled as dislike without any capital L. So I'm just going to copy this dislike count variable and paste it here just so that we have the same naming convention. Finally, we also have a view count field, which is also going to be 0. So now we have added all the necessary details inside the video DTO object. So if I open the application now, if you open the browser, we can see the view count as 6 and followed by the date. So instead of providing just the value 6, maybe it's more intuitive to provide details like 6 views or something like that. So for that, I'm going to open again the HTML file, the video detail component HTML file, and I'm just going to add views, right? 6 views. So let's now open the browser, and you can see we have the attribute 7 views. So the next thing we're going to do is to display the view information and also the published date information side by side. Now we are displaying it in new lines. What we want to do is display these two information side by side. So for that, I can just change this div tag to span tag, and already you can see that the view information is seen side by side with the date published, the published date, right? And I want to separate these two fields. I just don't want to display them so close. So for that, I'm going to display some kind of separator here. So some kind of a dot separator. So for that, I'm going to create a new span tag, and I'm going to assign a class CSS called as separator, and inside the video details.component.css file, I'm going to create a definition for the separator CSS class, and I'm just going to paste in some CSS where we are going to create a separator of type dot. So it contains a border radius as 50%, width as 5 pixel, height as 5 pixel. The background color is black, and I want to display it inline block style, right? So if I open the application now, you can see that we have 14 views followed by a dot and followed by the published date.